Thank you everyone for attending this exclusive Sysco Your Way webinar. And thank you for being a part of our neighborhood. And we welcome all of you. And please don't hesitate to do some shout outs, any questions that you may have. And with that, I hand it over to Heidi, right, Heidi?
Yes, thanks, Dawn. And as Dawn said, thank you all for being here. So the topic that we're going to be going over today is the website assessment. We want to take you through just an introduction of who we are. And then we're going to hit some of those key focus areas that are highlighted in the website assessment report, and the benefits of those. Then to wrap it up, we're just going to touch upon the other solutions that Restaurant Solutions has to offer, and then also a little bit more about our key partner who's with us today, Fisherman. So my name is Heidi Harrington, and I am a part of the Restaurant Solutions team. And I work with our team of account managers and designers and consultants who work directly with our customers on their menu and marketing. I will hand it over to Bruce.
Oh, thanks, Heidi. My name is Bruce Barnes. I'm also with Restaurant Solutions, and Amit and I will be going through the presentation talking about this exciting web assessment tool. So I'll hand it over to the real expert here, Amit.
Thank you, Bruce. Yes, my name is Amit. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Fisherman websites and technology. We do marketing, products, and services for the restaurant industry. Very excited to be here with the Sysco team.
All right, so just a couple of things that we hope to accomplish today running through this material. The website assessment that we provide does have a lot of information, and we are hopeful that this assessment will be able to help you increase your conversions, improve your brand visibility, increase your traffic and revenue, enhance the user experience, and boost your brand reputation. All these things sound really great. So at the end of this experience, hopefully everybody will have a few extra tips and tricks that they can go ahead and implement. And these are the key focus areas that we're going to look at. These are the areas that the report, the assessment provides and gives more of the deep dive suggestions and recommendations. So we're going to be looking at the on-page SEO, the links, usability, performance, and social. And like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of great information to come here. I'm going to hand it over to Bruce and Amit, and we're just going to jump right in.
As we walk through these focus areas, remember that if you're not familiar with the web assessment, when we provide it to you, it's typically 25 plus pages of information. So we're just going to kind of go through top level through some of these, which you'll find most important. And Amit will explain what that reason is, why it's so key, and how it all ties into your visibility. So we're going to start with probably the most important area and key of the focus areas on page SEO. And we're going to start with title tags. So, Amit, if you can kind of walk us through what these little headlines are and why it's important, I'm sure they'd love to hear.
Absolutely. So yeah, and just a quick note on on-page SEO and SEO in general, it is an ongoing activity. There's a lot of things that you can do. That's why this report is so long. And there are some rules that are ever changing, but one nice thing about on-page SEO is a lot of these are one-time efforts to get you to a baseline that's much higher. So, you know, you don't have to get lost in this never-ending stream of steps. Even just covering these core items can help you quite a bit. And an on-page SEO has a lot of these sort of one-time things that can make a difference, and title tags are a really great place to start. So when you're searching on a search engine, we're going to mostly talk about Google today because over 90% of search volume is happening through Google. Most people are trying to find local businesses like yours on Google. And when you are searching, when a consumer is searching on Google, you're going to see a list of results. And usually what you see is a title, usually a description. The title is hyperlinked to the website. And that title is what this title tag is referring to. it's the first thing that people are going to see. Assuming that you're doing what you need to do to show up, it's the first thing people are going to see when they search for something like food near me or restaurant near me, or for your business. And you can control what that title says. This is that title tag. Whoever your website developer is or whatever platform you're using, every page has the ability to edit this. And usually by default, the home page, has the title tag that's showing up in the results for you. And it's important because it's that first thing people see, and you can edit it to try to hook people's attention, because there's a lot of results that are going to show up in Google search, and you want people to click yours. So if you have something that's not relevant to your business, or if you have something that is shorter than it could be, it's an opportunity to be more descriptive and hook someone to read the next thing and to click into your website. So because you can control it, you want to make it relevant. We usually recommend having the name of your business, of course, and then potentially your cuisine or your location or something else that describes what your business offers. You don't want it to be too long, so that it gets cut off in the search results. But you don't want it to be too short because you're wasting a valuable opportunity to capture people's attention.
Okay, let's move on to meta tag descriptions or meta description tags. Sorry.
Yeah. So this is pairing really well with the title tag. Like I mentioned, there's a description that goes with that title right underneath. And by default, Google's just going to scrape whatever the first information on your website is and put it there as the description. And so this is another great opportunity to put together and control what that information is. You want to, once again, make sure that this description isn't too short or too long. We usually recommend about 150 characters. That ensures that whether it's on mobile that people are searching on Google or desktop, you're using the space effectively. And because this is visible to consumers, it's all about being persuasive. So this is where, if you haven't yet talked about your location or cuisine, it's a great place to do that. Or, mention a promotion that you might be running, or really leveraging, describing why someone should click into your business. And behind the scenes, this title tag and this meta description is talking to Google. Google is scraping this information and trying to match it to what people are searching for. We'll talk a little bit more about keywords later, but it's really useful. It's the first thing people are going to see with that title, so it's useful to take advantage.
You're going to see a lot of information here, and remember that this report will kind of lead you to the most important of the steps. So not only are we going to go through what's key, but this web assessment will highlight those areas of opportunity you should hit first. So as we go through these, they might not all apply to you depending on the grade of the assessment, but this is kind of an overview. So to continue, the H1 header tag usage, kind of like the title of a book.
Exactly. Yeah, this is, and the nice thing is we're building on each of the previous items here. So the good thing is you don't have to come up. This isn't a brand new definition. This is actually similar to what we just talked about. But the key takeaway here is that the same thing we just did for your home page, we can do for every page of your website. And the more content, rich keywords that you can add to your site and tell Google is relevant and that will show up on that Google search before someone clicks into your website, the better, because you're taking up more real estate. And so, when you're searching for your business, in some cases, or any business, in some cases, you'll just see a title and a description, but sometimes you'll not only see the title and description for the website, you'll also see a title and description for every page underneath it. And that's what we're talking about here. The same concept, but it applies to every page. And you want to take up as much attention as possible on Google. And so if you can have a meta title, a header, an H1 header tag and a description for every page, you can get your website to take up more real estate on that initial Google search. So it's more likely that someone's going to click into your website. So that's what this is all about. It's the same process that you would follow as the previous steps, but you're going to do it for every page this time.
You've mentioned keywords. I've heard you say consistency, so this wraps it up together.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I think the, important takeaway, we like to describe, SEO as Google's love language, right? I mean, Google has this very difficult task because there are millions of websites out there, and it needs to, using algorithms, it needs to showcase what it thinks are the most relevant results to people who are searching. And one of the best ways they can do that is looking at the keywords that people are searching for. So it could be food near me, or restaurant near me, or Chinese food or Italian food, and matching that based on the local area that the person who's searching is in, and the content of your website. So that's why the keywords are so important, and you probably hear that all the time when you think about SEO. Is it's the easiest thing for Google to do, to try to show consumers relevant information. And consistently using the same keywords that are the most relevant throughout your site tells Google that this is actually something that matters to your business. If you just mention, one keyword, like if it is a Chinese restaurant or Chinese food once, and then you're mentioning all these other things, compared to if you're mentioning it consistently throughout your site, Google is going to be a lot more likely to say, yeah, this is a website that a consumer who's searching for Chinese food wants to actually land on. And so that's why it's useful to think about what are the things people are searching for, and how can I consistently use those on my titles, on my descriptions, in my about description, on my list of menu items, right, throughout that website, to give Google that sense of consistency. There are tools like Google Search Console that you can use to see what people are searching for and start to build a strategy around what keywords to use. It's free to use Google Search Console, and we highly recommend that.
Okay. This was one I was not familiar with before I met you, so this is great. Image alt attributes.
Yeah, this one's a really interesting one, because a lot of people don't realize that this is a thing, but people eat with their eyes, of course, and that's why images on websites are very important. But one of the things that you can do for every single image that's on your site is add what's called an image alt tag, or alt text, or alt attribute, all the same thing, where you're describing what that image is. And it's useful because Google can't automatically infer what the image is, right? They can't pull text from an image. They can't process that. Starting to change now with AI, but for the most part, it doesn't know what an image is. And so it looks for, the website developer, or, the person who's putting the website together, to tell it what that image is. And that's what this alt tag is. So you can write a description for every single image. And this is a great way to boost that keyword consistency, because you can just get more keywords into your website without having way too much text, because this lives behind the scenes and people don't have to see this. But there is an added advantage around accessibility. So if you're visually impaired and you're using a screen reader to navigate a website, the alt text gets read, since people can't necessarily see those images clearly. And so it's a great tool for accessibility, which Google also favors. They're looking for websites to meet accessibility standards. Having alt text for all of your images is therefore a great way to both make your site more accessible and to tell Google that there's more keywords that it should be paying attention to.
Okay, explain to us SSL enabled.
Yes. So SSL is basically a security certificate, and it stands for Secure Sockets Layer. You don't need to worry about that. But when you hear SSL, you should just think security. And when you're on a website, a lot of times before the www, you're going to see HTTP : / or HTTPS. And when there's an S, if it's HTTPS before that URL, that S indicates that the website has what's called an SSL certificate. It's this baseline level of security for your domain, for your website. And Google heavily favors businesses that have, or websites that have, security. So if you see it just say HTTP for your website, that means you're not secured. And it's an easy win. It's very cheap to get an SSL certificate. Your web provider should be able to help you do that, or your domain provider. And once you have it, it's a one-time thing. You should usually see a lock, icon, like a padlock in that URL, and it should say HTTPS. And it's a very simple, one-time thing, but it's this immediate difference in terms of the credibility that your website has to Google.
It sounds like this webinar should be entitled Keeping Google Happy and Benefiting.
100%. That is what it's all about.
It's all about analytics, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is where, once you're starting to do these things and you're really trying to take control of your business, I mean, there's only so much you can do without analytics. And I'm a bit of a, data nerd, and we take analytics for the websites we manage very seriously, because it's how we know that we are implementing best practices, that we're doing the things to help these websites perform better and better. There's two tools that I would recommend. They're both free. And the one, if you're going to just choose one, is Google Analytics. It is a step to install Google Analytics, but it's free and it's a Google tool, so you can trust the information here. But if you're going to do another one, Facebook Pixel is another one that you can install. And that's great, especially if you intend to do ads on Facebook or Instagram down the road. But Google Analytics is great to see core information, things like how many people are coming to your website in a given period of time. How many of those are repeat visitors versus first-time visitors? Who are they? What are their demographics? You can see the gender split, the age split, and that's really useful to be able to determine what kind of marketing campaigns to run. And if your demographics are changing over time, maybe there's some things on your menu you might want to change. You can see how often people are coming to your site, where they're coming from, how many people are finding you just organically by searching for food near me or restaurant near me, versus they're typing in your URL directly, or they're finding you via Instagram or some other website. All of that data lives in Google Analytics. It's free to access, and it can tell you a lot about about the quality of your site. Just a couple other metrics that we really like to look at. One is session duration. So that means how long are people spending on your website? This is one of those things that Google really does care about. They want people to have a good experience, and often they think about how long someone's spending on the site as a metric to indicate that it's good. This is why it's useful to have a lot of content on your site, so people will navigate through it and spend a little bit longer there. And then the other is how many people are actually going through the full process. And if you care about online ordering or reservations, or having someone call the restaurant, how many people are actually clicking that that action. And you can track that with Google Analytics. You can see, first of all, how many people are coming to the site, and then of those people, how many are actually taking the action that I want. And once you know that, you can start to take action yourself by making, if not that many people are actually ordering online, making it more visible on your site, as an example. So these are some of the areas where analytics makes a huge difference.
Okay, we just covered the first of the focus areas. You can see the A- there in on-page SEO. That was the biggest group. And we're going to move on to links, as you see in this example. But remember, when you get this report, if you're not in charge of your website and you have somebody running your site for you, hand this assessment to them, and they'll understand what Amit was talking about, or this report will guide them in the right direction. But let's jump towards links and start with backlinks. Can you describe
Yes.
that for us?
Absolutely. So yeah, up until now, we've been talking about all the things on your page, on your website, that you can make changes to help with getting found online. And this is, one of the first items that's actually off-page SEO. So this doesn't have to do with making edits to your site. This is actually about getting your website referenced on other sites and other places. So that's what a backlink is it's a link to your website that comes back to your site from some other platform. And there's a few things you can do here. Our first recommendation, that's more within your control, is making sure you have business listings set up and that you're linking to your website from your listing. So Google Business Profile. It used to be called Google My Business. Now it's called Google Business Profile. That's where you can manage your core information that lives on Google Maps. And you definitely want to make sure you have a website linked there so people can get to your site. And other platforms like Yelp or Facebook or Instagram, those are largely within your control to add that website link. But to really build a good backlinking strategy, you want to start to get publications to reference your website URL. So if you can do any sort of networking, locally with local journals or food-related publications like Eater, as an example, getting your website linked there adds a ton of credibility to your website, because Google sees that Eater, for example, gets a ton of traffic and it's all food related. And if you're linked on Eater on any sort of article there, then it tells Google that you're a credible business as well. And so, backlinks can really help with telling Google that you're a legitimate organization. And in general, right, it can be difficult because it's a little bit, of a separate process to get a lot of backlinks. And I would definitely recommend quality over quantity here. A couple good backlinks go a much longer way than just getting all your friends with different websites that have nothing to do with your industry to link to your website. That actually tells Google that you're not following best practices here. So getting high quality ones is really what matters. But the more you can do that, the better off you'll be.
Strategic networking. Next focus area, usability. You see this test account we have here getting a C in usability. What can they do?
Yes, so this is the most important one, device rendering. So, specifically, we want to talk about how your website looks on different devices. And more specifically, it's all about mobile. We look at all the data across, thousands of restaurant websites, and it's about 70% of website traffic on restaurant websites coming from mobile devices. Often it's even more than that. So, even though a lot of times you're making edits to your website on a computer, what matters most is how it actually looks on a mobile device. And there's this concept called responsiveness, responsive design, that means as the size of the window that people are looking at a website changes, the content is responsive. It's moving around so that it still provides a good user experience. So I would highly recommend opening your website from your phone, opening it from someone else's phone. If you have an Android phone, look at it from an iPhone. If you have a new iPhone, look at it from an older iPhone. But also, different browsers. Look at it from Chrome and Safari, and you might notice that the website looks slightly differently on each of these devices. And it's very important to prioritize, especially the mobile design, because Google knows that a lot of people are coming from mobile. And because they know that, they're going to favor websites that have good user experience, good usability on mobile devices. And a lot of people neglect this experience, but it is the most important. And the other reason this is so important is because consumers have a lower attention span when it comes to mobile. They're used to having more options, swiping through things really quickly. And so it needs to load quickly on mobile, faster than it does on desktop. And it needs to be really easy to navigate. And so, yeah, I would highly recommend taking a look at your mobile device and making sure it's designed effectively for mobile.
Okay, we'll watch that score. How about font size? How's that play?
Yeah, so we see all the time, where business owners have a favorite font, and a lot of times that font might look cool, but it's really hard to read. And it's important to pick font sizes that everyone can read, because that's, again, something that Google cares about. And so I'd avoid like heavy cursive fonts, script fonts or display fonts are what those are called. So I'd avoid going too far down the rabbit hole of using heavy cursive, since it might be legible to you, but it could make it much harder to read. And Google, again, is looking at this and making determinations based on that. I also see sometimes people using 5 or 6 different fonts and font sizes, and you really don't want to do that because it hurts the usability. You want to have consistent font usage on your site, so that people can have a better user experience psychologically, right? People can place just 2 fonts is what we recommend, much more easily if it's consistent throughout the site. So 2 fonts is what we recommend, because you can pick what's called a header font, which is for all the titles on your website, and then a body font, which is for all the kind of paragraph text. So you just pick 2 different fonts, and they look good together. They're legible, and you stick to those consistently. Same size, same name of the font across the website. It's going to be a lot more usable. And most website building platforms have some way to select this at the top level, so you don't have to manually go through every single piece of text. You can kind of set a header font and a body font, and it'll automatically apply throughout the site. That's what I would recommend. And this is also, again, important for accessibility, which we talked about before.
Okay. Next area, performance, which does that tie into usability? Seems like it would,
Does,
but
yeah.
help us out with that.
Yeah, so performance, a lot of this comes down to things like how quickly the website loads. And we're highlighting one area here, which is the page size. And so, different websites have different amounts of content on there. And as one example, let's say you have an image on your site. Some images are really large in size. Maybe it's really high resolution, and it could be tens or even hundreds of megabytes in size versus other images that are much smaller. And the more content you have and the bigger the size of the files that live on your site, like video, for example, is usually pretty large in size. That will slow down the time it takes to load your website. And the longer it takes for your website to load, the more you're going to get docked on SEO. And so thinking about this is a little bit more technical here, but something that is within your control is looking at the images that are in your site. And you can do things like compress those images. There's a lot of free tools online, where you can compress certain files like PNGs or JPEGs, image files, and it'll keep the same quality of the image, but reduce the size a lot. And so we always recommend, compressing those files. A little bit more technically is sort of limiting the plugins. If you're using a platform like WordPress that has a lot of plugins, really try to limit the usage of those plugins to what's most important, so that the website loads quickly. And then there's this concept called lazy load, which is also really important in modern websites, where instead of waiting for everything on the website to load before showing it, it'll just show whatever is available whenever it loads. So if you do have a lot of images on your site, maybe it'll show the text content first, and then it'll show the images when the images have properly loaded. That's great because you're at least giving the consumer something to look at and read. Because if you don't, right, you'll notice sometimes if you open a website, it takes 4 or 5 seconds to load, the consumer will leave. The attention span is on the order of milliseconds. And so, especially on mobile. So if things don't load, people will leave and they'll just click the next website link. So you want to really capture and hold on to that attention. Page size helps you do that.
Okay. And we are to the last of the 5 areas, social. Not such a great score here, but that's okay. It's pretty basic, right? Get connected.
Yeah, exactly. This one's pretty straightforward. Make sure you have social media profiles. Even if you're not super active, try to be active. Even if you're not super active, just make sure those are linked on your site. This report is looking at a lot of different types of social profiles, including LinkedIn and Foursquare and things like that. Obviously, you want to pick the ones that are actually most relevant to your business, like Instagram and Facebook in particular. And we always do, especially today, there's more discovery happening than ever on Instagram. Google's still king by a long shot, but an increasing amount of people are searching for businesses on Instagram, especially in the food industry, because people again eat with their eyes and they want to see imagery to help inform their eating decisions. And they also want to be part of a community. They want to see some sort of engagement and see how you as a business interact with the public. And so this can really help to offer and be engaging on these platforms. But it also, there's hacks that you can implement to make this a little bit easier on yourself. You can prompt your customers to, post photos on Instagram when they come in and tag you in a post. And then you can just repost those and reshare those. You can take photos of your customers if they're open to it, or their meals, and tag them and they'll repost it, right? There's little things you can do that don't force you to have to spend a ton of time, operating social. I know a lot of restaurateurs don't want to deal with social media at all, but there's little things you can do to make this an easier process. And then of course, at the end of the day, make sure those are linked on your website and that your website is linked on your social media profiles.
Okay, so that's it on these focus areas. It's kind of a really quick rundown on our web assessment solution that we offer. Remember, when you get this or are interested in it, we don't always have a meet at our beck and call to explain everything, but the report itself goes quite in depth, and we'll help you walk through that. So we look forward to you taking advantage of that. Wish you great luck. Hope that you work with fishermen and our team.